Hello everyone, this is Greyshot17, and today I'm going over the things in the Company for Heroes 3 technical tests that I thought were great or that drove me bonkers. This is going to be 10 amazing things and 10 things that I disliked. Some of which are tiny details they're probably going to be patched over. Some of the things are more generic stuff that I enjoyed, but still, I want to at least give my thoughts on it, and I figured this is the best way. So, as a positive to start off this list, let's go automatic reinforcements. This is done in your base or with half tracks, and overall, I think having the option for your units to automatically reinforce just with your excess manpower is one less option that you have looking your base or on the top right or bottom left hand side of the screen wherever your unit icons are, and more time you spend on the front actually fighting other units and coordinating with your allies. So, nice little touch. Unfortunately, something that drove me absolute bonkers, this is the worst thing about the technical test was, and this is going to sound real petty, but the top left-hand side, there would be the unit icon. So I would switch to the top right. Well, fun fact, when you do that and then jumped into a new game, it would automatically set to the bottom left, but it would still say in the settings it was in the top right. Yeah, I know, that's incredibly petty, but it still absolutely drove me bonkers because every game I had to save it again. And there were some other settings that wouldn't necessarily save if you closed the game and then went back in. Again, it's a technical test, they're going to fix things, but still, that drove me nuts because every game I had to go in and fix it as I launched. So hopefully that's fixed before the full launch. All right, positive number 2, reinforcements, but this is for sport equipment. This is done by like half tracks and other things. The goal of it, very simply put, is that way when you get a sport equipment, you can automatically have it reinforced, which for the sport equipment option, hey, that's really nice, so that we can just get a full mortar or something up and running. Now, as a negative that I found, sorry, cat's running around the distance, the negative that I found, number 2, that drove me bonkers was team colors, specifically the fact that your entire team, you didn't know necessarily who was who, right? Because none of the units or anything would give their name, and each of the colors weren't uniform. So, for example, on my team, it could be blue, red, orange, and green, and on the enemy team, it could be pink, let's say purple, yellow, and for some reason, we'll add in a light blue. There wasn't a uniform color, so you would automatically think the enemy team was your ally and the allies were the enemy. So I had to just keep everything uniform, which made everything a lot harder to differentiate. Okay, who's going where, and is there actually 2 players fighting one? I can't tell. So, yeah, that's frustrating, and hopefully they can fix that. Number 3, automatic vaulting. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy this feature, but I will say that just having units not get trapped in certain locations, like in Code 2, where they would just get stuck on terrain, you're just trying to find that one spot to click them out, was a nice refresher and at least something you didn't have to worry about. Again, I feel like movement was an issue in Code 2 because everything was a lot more close together and also could get stuck. Code 3, they seem to have fixed that issue, so at least from my play tests in the technical test, I quite enjoyed it, and I didn't have any, for the most part, units stuck too much. But the number 3 negative is balancing. I'm going to go over some balancing stuff in another video probably soon, but I think the big one is the Flamethrower. Honestly, the Flamethrower was way too powerful and also had way too much of a extended range to actually counter very effectively unless you had tanks. So, again, something that I hope they fix. Other things could be like AA being very powerful, the concrete bunkers being very sturdy, or the some of the assault guns weren't as effective like the Italian or the Brumbar. But, again, I feel like some of that stuff, and I'll go into greater detail, I think, in another video, this can be easily fixed and changed. There's actually, fun fact, Winx in level 1, I believe, made a unit detailed sheet going over all the units and stats. I don't believe they have damage, but I think they have health, and pretty much have the population, everything else with a unit. I'll include that down below. It's a nice little feature, or a nice little Excel sheet they put together that you can look at and see all the units for each faction as well. So, a nice little cool addition. A positive, I will say, is the automatic base building. The fact you can go on any base, double tap, and the base will automatically build in your base. You don't have to go and try to figure out where to put it in your base. Nice little touch. Again, it's the small stuff like that where I can spend more time microing units, just is a nice touch. I know a lot of the stuff I mentioned about the seems to be automatic things, but 3 out of the 4 so far. But again, it is a nice little feature. It's one less thing you have to worry about and more time you can spend actually on the front with your units. So win-win. Negative for me was some of the call-ins. Some of the call-in units I feel like need to have a delay, especially the more powerful ones, like I believe the Italian, and I believe the British have a very powerful early game unit as well. Not necessarily the Pathfinders, the Assault Engineers for the Americans. I didn't find them like being able to turn the tide as much as some of the more specialized units for, I believe, the British and the DAK. So something to look into, and hopefully they do make that alteration, so it's a bit of an improvement. And again, there's also some things about pair dropping with the Stern Pioneer. I'm a little iffy on that one, but I could easily see an issue where they that occurred where people were dropping it in and blocking the enemy team while they just quickly grab territory with was it the Kettenkrad and everything else. So just something that popped up that may need a little tweaking, or I could see being tweaked. All right, now number 5, faster games as a positive, because I was able to get more games in and play them with everyone jumping on in. So I was able to again go through and have a full co-experience, and the more I played, the more I was able to excel at getting different units at different times. So I was able to get stuff out sooner and quicker, especially when I maximized resources of the Kettenkrad, putting down additional caches, etc. Just kind of getting used to the flow of the game. Now, I wish I had more time in that later phase, because that's where I feel like people are going to have the most fun. And I feel like that's where the negative is going to come in. I feel like a separate mode where you can be 25% speed on the victory points, or kind of like having a counter blitz mode. Like if the main game is the main game, having another mode that's a little bit longer, maybe not 1,000 victory points is that I think 151 showed that maybe is a bit too much. I think 750 would be a nice balance, or again, just have a speed reduction of up to 25%. I feel like that would help as well. But I definitely see benefits of having that game structure at that time of 20 to 30 minutes. So especially if you're going through a lot of games and want to test out a lot of different features. But if you want to actually maximize the later vehicles and get more play out of them, I do think maybe having either separate game mode or altering it by about 25% will give you that sweet spot. That'll give you enough time with those Panzers, with the Shermans, Tiger Tank, whatever you want to bring in, and actually have a good deal of fun. Though I will, something of note, usually in CoH2, the most fun part of the game is that second half while you're maximizing all of your heavier vehicles and infantry. In this, the lighter stuff wasn't too bad, but we'll get to that. Number 6, positive strategic depth. The fact that, for example, the Americans have all 3 of those tech trees, plus you have the battle groups, and each one was very unique in terms of the upgrade path, stuff like that. Like, I didn't realize about the captain until finally going through, and I'm like, oh, there's the captain, and it acts as a forward retreat. So you could get some type of vehicle to reinforce and heal, and bing, bada, boom, you got yourself essentially in CoH2 an ambulance major supply point. Or the airstrikes, you can just call in so many airstrikes when combined in airborne or other things like that. It's just a lot of stuff that can kind of coordinate with each other that I didn't realize until going through. Like, I completely forgot about the DAK and the stuff they call in and the Tiger, just because I was so invested in some of the different buildings and tiers. So there's a lot in there and a lot of stuff that even I am still getting used to and still trying to figure out. And again, some of the units in CoH2, there are some units that may not have a long-term viability. Now, they fixed that with some like conscripts having 7-man squads and other things like that, but I feel like in this one they do enough to where I think some light vehicles can still have a later game impact. But anyway, that's from initial testing. We'll see what happens again at full release. But again, the amount of stuff and upgrades and units, positive. Very good positive for me. Now, negative, the ping system. My God, the ping system where you click on something and no one can hear it. There's other audio issues, and again, they're trying to finalize the audio, but the ping system, when you click on it and no one can hear it and no one knows you did the ping, that needs to be fixed. Positive number 7, allies. Are beefy. It's specifically the Shermans. This is probably the most amount of fun I've had with an American faction in any of the CoH games. I do not like the Americans as much as the other allied factions in CoH2. The Americans in this I preferred over the Brits for me personally, and I know this might be unpopular, but I like the DAK more than I like the Vermok in CoH3, at least from what everything was tested, right? So the fact that the allies, and I know they are meant to be more offensive based, but oh god, I was having so much fun with Shermans and pushing up with infantry and other things like that. Like overall, I was surprised. I thought I would just like the Brits because again they have the heavier vehicles, and I thought I would enjoy the Vermok, but actually it was the complete opposite. So that actually surprised me. So again, nice surprise with the factions. Now, a negative for me was the glitches and crashes. I never crashed personally, but a lot of people I knew crashed from. Supposedly, it was accessing the minimap that was causing the crashing. Hopefully, they can fix that because, again, I personally don't open the minimap constantly, but I do know other people who do use the minimap. And, you know, those competitive guys might get a little frustrated if that is indeed causing a higher chance of crashing. Also, there would be an issue with, like, the fortification, like, I think the heavy pack, essentially the Flak 88, where you would decrew it, and then you would injure it, and then if you recruit it, it would automatically boost the health back up to 100%. Yeah, that kind of needs fixed. Again, I believe that was just a glitch because it would be recrew and essentially make a new unit, or so it would do something to it that would make it seem like it's brand new. So again, hopefully they can fix those bugs and crashes and stuff like that and make the game a little bit smoother. And again, there are other things, but I feel like those two were the most noticeable and ones that at least I saw. Positive number 8. Let's get into the map design. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, the map design is not amazing, but I never had a face-off Rostov, or I'm trying to think of another map, like a Sittard Summer or anything like that. I know, or Montargis region, right? All the maps I played seemed pretty viable or seemed pretty good. They seem distinct, especially for the 4v4 maps like the Winterline and the other Italian map. Again, kind of remind me of a little bit like Lorch Assault of sorts for the one Italian map, but in a decent way where you could still go to and help your team. You weren't pigeonholed into like a 3v3 and 1v1. And Winterline was nice because, again, there are these lanes that constantly go across the map, but there's so many ways to crisscross that even though you could theoretically choke point, it's still very difficult to do, where at least me and my team were never able to successfully like just bunker up a line and like make it a huge defensive line because there was still enough room and viabilities and ways around defenses. So something in there. And the 2v2 and 3v3 maps I played, there's one that has a river that goes through, but again, because of its orientation with the other side, you can cross the river just fine. It's not like it's face over Rostov where you can be blocked by the two bridges. You don't have to use the bridge. You can go over the water. So I know some people were complaining about that, but again, if you look on the other side, I believe there is a negative cover area, so they tried to make it similar, but that's just me. And again, overall, I thought the maps were good. Again, I feel the only thing I will say is because we're not seeing a system similar to CoH2, and a lot of people did not like the winter stuff in CoH2. I understand that caused a lot of crashing and performance issues, and overall people disliked it, but it did make the maps more unique because of the blizzard and snow attributes to it, or the mud. And remember mud, everyone, in CoH2? Yeah, they took that out, along with heavy snow and other things. But the reason I bring all that stuff up is the fact that the maps don't have that stuff. Like, I love the fact that Vielsalm had mines and people would lose their infantry just charging north. Like, that was good. I know that's unfortunate for a player who does it, but I thought that's a nice map sort of like hazard, right? None of these really feel like they have that or have like their own personal taste. It's kind of like Zanzibar. I think it's Zanzibar in Halo, where it had the turning wheel. Gameplay wise, yes, you could get on and go up, but it also made that map a little bit more distinct compared to everything else. And that's the only thing I will say for these maps that I just wanted that maybe, unless I need to go over them a little bit more, but I felt like they need a little bit more distinct quality. They look visually great, but more that affects gameplay, if that makes sense. But hey, a lot of competitive guys hate that part. I'm fine with it, but hey, that's just me. All right, so negative unit identification. This is the part where the only time we'll really talk about graphics because I feel like that's been beaten to death. I think that through a Reddit post, it was shown that it's really just lighting and other things that weren't being done because, again, it's still a technical test where it wasn't being optimized correctly. So a lot of people made a big hullabaloo over the graphics, but from what it seems, if they do fix the bugs, they should be able to make it look a lot better. And I feel like they've already showcased that with like before and after with the sand and everything like that. But again, if they keep making things more distinct, great. But one thing I will bring up is the fact that some units do have camo that blend into the environment, making sure that they are, you know, visually you can see them a little bit more. I feel like would help with sort of unit identification and making sure that people are aware of where the units are on the map. Anyway, number 9 for positives, light vehicles. Oh my god. The fact that every faction is a light vehicle that I enjoy. The Dingo is great. The Kettenkrad's great. The motorcycle team, which again, go backwards, whatever. That ridiculous, but whatever. It's fun. I like all that stuff. The Jeep, great. Again, it has their own attributes. Again, even a Weasel with a flamethrower engineer, whatever. It's great. But it's not just that. It's the Chaffee, right? My brother specifically made me mention the Chaffee because that's one of his favorite vehicles in CoH3 to use, right? And again, you have other vehicles that, and you know, can be effective. Look, it's not all like amazing, or not amazing, I guess, like truly unique, right? Like there's a Whirlwind instead of an Oswin, but it's still fun to use, especially with the flak and how powerful it is against infantry. I just like the fact that it seemed like light vehicles, although AT is still quite effective against them, again, everything felt good. It felt good to play with the light vehicles, where sometimes in Code 2 I'm like, well, Panzer 2, I mean, okay, you could go for that, or I could just get a Panzer 4 or a Stuka or something, right? That can just devastate infantry. Again, not saying the Panzer 2 is worthless. It's just, for me, it's like there's some units that as the game goes on, the T-70 has a recon ability that can help with stuff like the ISU-152. But, I mean, as an infantry killer, maybe you have that kind of scout, but it's not, especially in the later games, doesn't have that necessarily viability. At least with other things like the Chaffee, or if I'm going into like the DAK, right? The half tracks, or I mean, a lot of the allies have this. The half track that can turn into whatever you need it in a T-gun, an artillery piece, a medical truck. It fits whatever need you need. So again, I feel like the amount of abilities and stuff you can get for those half tracks and light vehicles also benefit it. So a lot of positive stuff with the vehicles, and I am very happy about that. Because again, it was just fun getting that stuff and playing with it. And again, I think you can go to 151's content. He streamed for 2 days while I was flying to Pennsylvania. But he showcased a lot of light vehicles and had a great time with that. All right. Number 9, explosions. I know this is a technical test, and I know I said something about graphics, but still, explosions I feel like need a little more pop to them, but hey, that's just me. I feel like, again, especially for like, if people are trying to like, oh my god, that was an epic explosion, right? The demos and stuff for Skippy just have a really cool flair to them, and while they do have the like overall the ground, like the dust flying up, that effect's cool. I feel like the explosion, at least from the technical test, didn't look as impressive. So hopefully they can make sure that is impressive. The vehicles exploding were fine. I just want the actual explosion from artillery or something like that, like from the Stuka, to have that bang. Because I feel like the Stuka, especially in Code 2, had more visual pop. And I feel like that's what maybe a little visual pop for Code 3. The Noble Warfer, though, again, fantastic unit. Really powerful for flame damage. But like that had more visual pop from the fire. So also fire looks pretty good in this game. Especially with the flamethrowers that would murder all my men. But still, it looked good while they all burned to death. All right, number 10 for positives. Vehicle deterioration. This is probably the longest I've had with like a vehicle on the field constantly battling. And you could see the vehicles actually deteriorating before your very eyes. And that I liked. I like the fact that you have a pristine tank and you have one that literally has gone through living hell, and it's great. The fact that you can actually see the damage that is taken and how much on the battlefield like it is endured. So again, I love it. It's perfect. I can easily see some memes coming out of it, like new face coming onto the field of battle, man who has seen war. It's like it's great. Like again, that visual distinction is wonderful. So again, I like that, again, especially because the deteriorated units, to me, seemed like they had more texture and had a lot more personality than the newer vehicles. But hey, that's just me. Number 10, this last thing and negative I had, and this is a nitpick, but when you load into a game, you usually see an image, and that image does not correspond with the map you're about to play. They have images for maps, right, that showcase, but sometimes the map, like for example, you're loading into Winterline and all of a sudden you get an image while loading on in, and it's not Winterline, it's something completely different. I think having Winterline as an image, Kirby. Oh, you want to take part 2? He really cares about images. But yeah, no, having that I think would just kind of go with the flow of loading into the map, similar to how CoH3, when you load out of a map, you would have an image of the map itself. But that's just me. Again, those were my top 10 and I guess top 10 best and worst. Sorry, the cat's kind of got me a little flustered. But the things I disliked and the things I liked about the CoH3 technical test. What do you guys think? Is there anything I missed? And again, audio and graphics, I know they're going to improve because, again, it is a technical test. So here's hoping that it is improved to where people are like, okay, it's good. But hey, Kirby, what do you think? You want some food. Okay, so I need to get this cat some food because, as you can see, he's starving. Absolutely. This poor, he doesn't get enough food, even though he gets tons of treats. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, leave it down in the comments below. But anyway, thanks again. It's been Greyshot17 and apparently Kirby, and we'll see you guys next time. Hello everyone, this is Greyshot17, and before y'all go, let me give a special shout out to Patreon supporters Joey G240, Milam, Big Cooch, Aphyria, Ace, Pyro Shark, Tony B95, Epic Pleb. Thank you all for your incredible support and helping me grow my channel and support my channel and everything I do. Thank you, and to the rest of you, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.